What happens when one of Hollywood's most beloved actors walks onto a morning chat show and completely loses his cool in front of millions of viewers? In just 37 seconds, a single dismissive comment would turn a friendly interview into the most shocking meltdown ever broadcast on daytime television. This is the story of how Tom Hiddleston went from charming guest to absolute nightmare in the blink of an eye. The morning started like any other on the This Morning set. The lights were bright, the cameras were rolling, and Allison Hammond was doing what she does best, making everyone feel welcome and spreading joy to viewers across the country. She had that infectious energy that made mornings better for millions of people. Today's guest was supposed to be easy. Tom Hiddleston, the guy everyone loved, was coming on to talk about his latest project. Allison greeted him with her signature warmth. "Welcome, welcome. Oh, it's so lovely to have you here," she said, her smile genuine and wide. Tom walked out, waving to the audience, that practiced Hollywood smile plastered across his face. He sat down, adjusted his jacket, and settled into the chair like he owned the place. "So, Tom, let's talk about this new film you've got coming out," Allison began, her notes ready, her energy positive. "I've heard it's quite different from what you usually do." Tom nodded slowly, and there was something in his expression that seemed off. "Yes, well, it's a very serious piece, very complex. I'm not sure morning television is quite the right platform to discuss the nuances of the character work involved." Allison blinked, but kept her smile. "Oh, well, we love a good chat about films here. Our viewers are really interested in—" "Your viewers," Tom interrupted, and his tone had changed completely. "Yes, I suppose they watch this sort of thing while they're doing their ironing, or whatever it is people do in the morning." The studio went quiet. You could feel the temperature drop. Allison's smile faltered for just a second before she recovered, the professional that she was. "Well, actually, our viewers are really engaged, and they love hearing from guests like you. They're big fans." Tom laughed, but it wasn't a friendly laugh. It was the kind of laugh that made everyone uncomfortable. Fans, right. The same people who probably think superhero films are the height of cinema. Allison shifted in her seat, trying to redirect. "You've done some amazing work in all kinds of films. Tom, what drew you to this particular role?" "What drew me?" Tom repeated, his voice dripping with condescension. "What drew me was the script, the writing, the depth. Things that are probably lost on a format like this, where everything has to be dumbed down into nice little sound bites for people who can barely pay attention for more than 30 seconds. The crew behind the cameras exchanged glances. This wasn't going how anyone expected. Allison, ever the professional, tried again. "I think you might be surprised by how much our audience appreciates good storytelling, Tom. We've had some wonderful conversations on this show about—" "Wonderful conversations." Tom cut her off again, air quoting with his fingers in the most patronizing way possible. "Is that what we're calling this? A conversation? Because from where I'm sitting, this feels like an interrogation designed to get me to say something ridiculous that can be clipped and shared online." Allison's face showed genuine hurt now, but she held her ground. "Tom, I'm just trying to have a nice chat with you about your work. That's all this is. There's no need to be—" "To be what?" Tom snapped. "To be honest? To point out that this entire setup is beneath the kind of serious discussion the film deserves? I've done interviews with real journalists, Allison. People who actually understand the craft." The way he said her name, it was like he was spitting it out. The audience in the studio had gone completely silent. No one knew where to look. Allison took a deep breath, her hands folded calmly in her lap. "I understand you take your work seriously, and that's great. But there's no need to be rude. We're all just trying to do our jobs here." "Your job," Tom said, leaning back in his chair like he was holding court, "is to ask me silly questions and giggle and make everything light and fluffy. My job is to create art. Do you see the difference?" "My job," Allison responded, her voice steady but firm, is to connect with our viewers and give them something enjoyable to watch. And right now, you're being incredibly disrespectful. Not just to me, but to everyone watching. Tom's eyes narrowed. Oh, I'm being disrespectful? That's rich. You book me on this show? You don't do any real research. You ask the most basic questions that I've answered 1,000 times, and I'm the one being disrespectful? Actually, Tom, I did my research, Allison said, and there was steel in her voice now. I read the press notes. I watched your previous interviews. I prepared thoughtful questions. But you walked in here with an attitude from the very first moment. An attitude, Tom scoffed. I walked in here with standards. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the bar is so low on daytime television that anyone who expects more is seen as having an attitude. Allison looked directly into his eyes. The bar isn't low, Tom, but basic human decency should be a given, regardless of what show you're on or who you're talking to. I've interviewed hundreds of people, many much bigger stars than you, and not one of them has been as rude as you're being right now. That hit a nerve. Tom's face flushed red. Bigger stars than me? Who do you think you're talking to? Do you have any idea what I've accomplished? I know exactly what you've accomplished, Allison said calmly. You're a talented actor who's done some great work, but that doesn't give you the right to talk down to people. Success doesn't mean you get to be mean. Tom stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. I don't have to sit here and be lectured by someone who asks questions off a card. No one's forcing you to stay, Allison replied, her voice quiet but powerful. But if you're going to walk out, at least have the courage to admit this is on you, not on us. On me? Tom's voice was rising now, his composure completely gone. I came here as a favor. I agreed to this interview even though my publicist told me it would be a waste of time. And you know what? They were right. Allison stood up too, matching his energy, but without the anger. A favor? Tom, you came here to promote your film. That's not a favor. And that's part of your job. And part of that job is being professional and kind to the people who are trying to help you do that. Help me? Tom laughed bitterly. You think this helps me? Being on a show that's more interested in celebrity gossip than actual substance? We don't do celebrity gossip, Allison said firmly. We do real interviews with real people. And our viewers deserve better than watching someone act like they're too good to be here. Tom grabbed his microphone pack and started yanking it off. Well, lucky for your viewers, they won't have to watch me anymore because I'm done with this circus. Tom, please, one of the producers said from off camera, trying to calm the situation. Don't, Tom snapped at them. Just don't. Get me out of here. Allison watched him, her arms crossed. Her expression one of disappointment rather than anger. You know what's sad, Tom. You could have come here, had a nice conversation, connected with people who genuinely wanted to hear from you, and gone on your way. Instead, you chose to be cruel. Cruel? Tom spun around to face her. You want to talk about cruel? How about wasting my time with this pathetic excuse for journalism? How about pretending this matters when we both know it's just filler between commercial breaks? It matters to the people watching, Allison said, her voice breaking just slightly. It matters to the crew who worked hard to make this happen. It matters to me. Just because it doesn't matter to you doesn't mean it's worthless. Tom's face twisted into something ugly. Of course it matters to you. This is probably the highlight of your career, isn't it? I getting to sit across from someone who's actually achieved something? The entire studio gasped. That was too far, and everyone knew it. Allison's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. I've achieved plenty, Tom. I've built a career on making people happy, on bringing joy into their lives, on treating everyone with respect and kindness. That's worth more than any award or fancy film credit. Keep telling yourself that, Tom muttered, finally getting his microphone off and tossing it onto the chair. I will, Allison said quietly. Because it's true. And you know what else is true? Years from now, people might forget your films, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And right now, you're making millions of people feel like kindness doesn't matter. Tom paused for just a moment. And something flickered across his face. Regret? Shame? But then it was gone, replaced by more anger. I don't need a life lesson from a morning show host. Maybe you do, Allison said. Maybe that's exactly what you need. Tom turned to walk off the set, but Allison wasn't done. Tom, she called after him, I really hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. Because whatever's making you this angry, this bitter, it's not about me or this show. That's something you need to figure out for yourself. He stopped walking, but didn't turn around. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of the uncomfortable silence. Get out of my way, Tom finally said to a crew member who was standing near the exit. Tom, mate, just calm down for a second, the crew member said gently. I said get out of my way, Tom shouted, his voice echoing through the studio. Allison walked closer, her heels clicking on the floor. You need to leave now, Tom. This interview is over. Oh, now you're kicking me out? Tom whirled around. That's perfect. That's just perfect. You get me all riled up and then you play the victim. I didn't get you riled up, Allison said, her patience clearly wearing thin, but her professionalism still intact. You did that all on your own. From the moment you sat down, you've been disrespectful and condescending. I gave you chance after chance to just be decent, and you chose not to. Tom pointed his finger at her. You don't get to tell me how to behave. You don't get to sit there on your little sofa and judge me. I'm not judging you, Allison replied. I'm just asking you to be a decent human being. That's literally the bare minimum. The bare minimum, Tom repeated mockingly. Everything about this show is the bare minimum. The questions, the format, the... Stop, Allison interrupted, her voice sharp. Just stop. You've made your point. You think you're better than everyone here. We get it. Now please leave before you make this any worse. Worse? Tom laughed that awful laugh again. How could this possibly be worse? This is already a disaster. A disaster you created, Allison shot back. Own it, Tom. For once, just own your behavior. Tom's publicist appeared from backstage, looking absolutely horrified. Tom, we need to go. Now. Finally, Tom muttered. Someone with sense. As he started to walk away again, Allison had the final word. I hope your film does well, Tom. I really do. Tom, because the people who worked on it with you deserve success, even if you don't deserve their talent and dedication. Tom froze, his back to her. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then he turned around one last time. You know what your problem is, Allison, he said, his voice low and venomous. You're so busy trying to be everyone's friend that you don't know how to have a real conversation. You're fake. This whole thing is fake. Allison smiled sadly. If being kind and trying to make people feel good is fake, then I'll gladly be fake every single day. It's better than being genuinely mean. I'm not mean, Tom insisted. I'm honest. You can be both, Allison said. But right now, you're just being mean. And calling it honesty doesn't make it better. Tom's publicist grabbed his arm. Tom, please. We have to go. He yanked his arm away. I'm going. But let me make one thing clear. I will never, ever come back on this show. Not if you beg me. We won't be begging, Allison said simply. Trust me on that. Tom looked like he wanted to say more, but his publicist was practically dragging him toward the exit now. The cameras followed him as he stormed off, his face red, his movements jerky and aggressive. As soon as he was gone, Allison turned to the camera, composing herself with visible effort. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was steady. Well, she said, trying to smile, that was unexpected. I'm so sorry you all had to see that. That's not the kind of energy we want to bring into your homes. The producer's voice came through her earpiece, and she nodded. "We're going to take a quick break," Allison continued. "When we come back, we've got a lovely segment about rescue dogs finding their forever homes. Much better energy, I promise." As they cut to commercial, Allison sat back down heavily in her chair. A makeup artist rushed over to check on her, but Allison waved her away gently. "I'm okay," she said, though her eyes told a different story. "I'm okay." One of the producers came over. "Allison, that was incredible. The way you handled that—" "I didn't want to handle anything," Allison said quietly. "I just wanted to have a nice conversation about his film. I don't understand what happened." "What happened," the producer said firmly, "is that he showed everyone exactly who he is. And you showed everyone exactly who you are. There's no contest about who came out of that looking better." Allison nodded, but she looked drained. The joy that usually radiated from her was dimmed, and it was heartbreaking to see. Behind the scenes, the crew was buzzing. No one could believe what they'd just witnessed. Tom Hiddleston, the guy who'd built his reputation on being charming and professional, had just imploded on live television. And Allison Hammond, beloved by everyone who knew her, had stood her ground with grace and dignity, even as he'd tried to tear her down. The stage manager was shaking his head. "In 20 years of doing this, I've never seen anything like that." "The way he spoke to her," a camera operator added. "Who does that? Who comes on someone's show and treats them like that?" Back on set, Allison was taking deep breaths, preparing for the rest of the show. She looked at herself in the monitor and straightened her shoulders. "Right," she said to herself. "We've got a show to do. Let's bring the joy back." And that's exactly what she did. When they came back from commercial, Allison was smiling again, talking about rescue dogs with genuine enthusiasm, making everyone forget the ugliness that had just happened. Because that's who she was. Someone who could take a hit and keep going, who could face cruelty and respond with kindness. The rescue dog segment was beautiful. The dogs were adorable. The stories were heartwarming, and Allison was back to being herself. She played with the puppies, asked thoughtful questions to the rescue coordinator, and made sure every single dog got their moment to shine. "This little one is called Muffin," she said, holding up a tiny terrier mix. "And she's looking for a home with someone who has patience, because she's still learning that not all humans are scary." As she cuddled the small dog, you could see the tension leaving her body. This was what she loved. This was what mattered. Connecting with people, sharing stories, spreading happiness. After the rescue dog segment, there was a cooking demonstration. Allison laughed with the chef, tried the food with genuine appreciation, and made everyone watching feel like they were right there in the kitchen with them. "Oh my goodness, that is delicious," she exclaimed, her eyes wide. "You have to give us the recipe, because our viewers are going to want to make this." The chef beamed, clearly charmed by her enthusiasm. "Of course, it's actually really simple." "Don't say that," Allison joked. "You'll make me look bad when I inevitably mess it up." They laughed together, the warmth between them genuine and easy. This was the energy that made this morning special. This was what Tom Hiddleston had dismissed as worthless. Throughout the rest of the show, Allison never mentioned what had happened. She didn't make jokes about it, didn't reference it, didn't let it affect how she treated every other guest and segment. She was professional, warm, and completely present. But anyone who knew her could see the tiny signs. The smile that didn't quite reach her eyes in quiet moments. The way she seemed to be working just a little bit harder to maintain her energy. The brief flashes of sadness that crossed her face when she thought the cameras weren't on her. During another commercial break, her co-host put a hand on her shoulder. "You doing all right?" "Yeah," Allison said, and she meant it. "Yeah, I am. It was horrible, but I'm not going to let it ruin the whole day. Too many other good things happening." "That's the spirit," her co-host said. "And for what it's worth, you handled that better than anyone else could have." Allison smiled, a real smile this time. I just treated him like I'd want to be treated. Didn't work out, but at least I can sleep tonight knowing I tried. As the show continued, viewers at home were having a very different reaction. Social media was exploding. People were shocked, angry, supportive of Allison, and absolutely furious with Tom. The video clips were already spreading, each interaction being analyzed and discussed. But Allison didn't know any of that yet. She was just focused on finishing the show, on making sure everyone else who came on got the warm welcome they deserved, on proving that one bad experience wouldn't change who she was. The final segment was a feel-good story about a local community coming together to build a playground for children with disabilities. Allison listened to the organizer talk about their vision, asked questions that showed she really understood the importance of what they were doing, and got emotional when she heard how many volunteers had helped. "This is what it's all about, isn't it?" she said, wiping a tear from her eye. "People being kind to each other. People caring. That's what makes the world better." The organizer nodded enthusiastically. "Exactly. And it all started with one person who decided to do something good." "One person can make such a difference," Allison agreed, her voice warm. "Thank you so much for the work you're doing." As the show wrapped up, Allison delivered her closing remarks to the camera. "Thank you so much for spending your morning with us," she said, her smile genuine despite everything. "Tomorrow, we've got some brilliant guests lined up, some amazing stories to share, and hopefully lots of laughs. Until then, be kind to each other, and I'll see you soon." The cameras switched off, and Allison let out a long breath. The show was over. She'd made it through. Her producer rushed over. "Allison, that was incredible television. Difficult, but incredible. You were amazing." "I just wanted to do a good show," Allison said tiredly. "That's all I ever want." "And you did," the producer assured her. "Every single day, you do a good show. Don't let one difficult guest make you doubt that." Allison nodded, gathering her things. As she walked backstage, crew members stopped her to offer support, to tell her how well she'd handled everything, to make sure she was okay. Each kind word helped, reminding her why she loved this job despite moments like this. In her dressing room, Allison finally allowed herself to process what had happened. She sat down, still in her show outfit, and just breathed. It had been one of the hardest interviews of her career, not because of difficult questions or sensitive topics, but because someone had been deliberately cruel for no reason. There was a knock on her door. "Come in," she called. Her agent entered, phone in hand, looking concerned. "How are you holding up?" "I'm all right," Allison said. "Really? It was awful." But I'm okay." "You should know," her agent said carefully. "The response online is overwhelming. Everyone is supporting you. Everyone. They're calling Tom out for his behavior, praising how you handled it, and sending you so much love." Allison smiled sadly. "That's nice, but I don't want this to be about him being torn apart. I just want people to remember to be kind." "You're too good," her agent said affectionately. "Most people would want revenge." "What's the point?" Allison asked. "He's clearly dealing with something. Being mean back won't help anyone." Her agent shook their head in amazement. "You're incredible. You know that?" Allison laughed softly. "I'm just trying to be a decent person. It shouldn't be incredible. It should be normal." As she changed out of her show clothes and into something more comfortable, Allison thought about the confrontation. She replayed the moments in her mind, wondering if she could have done anything differently, if there was something she'd missed that had set him off. But deep down, she knew the truth. Some people just decide to be difficult. Some people walk into situations ready to be angry, ready to lash out, and there's nothing you can do to change that. All you can do is respond with grace and hope that maybe, somehow, it makes a tiny difference. Allison looked at herself in the mirror. She looked tired, older than she had that morning. But she also looked proud, She'd stood up for herself, for her crew, for her viewers. She'd refused to let someone make her feel small. And she'd done it all while maintaining her dignity and kindness. "Tomorrow's another day," she said to her reflection. And it's going to be a good one." Because that was the thing about Allison Hammond. No matter what happened, no matter who tried to dim her light, she always found a way to shine again. Not out of spite or to prove anyone wrong, but because that's genuinely who she was. Someone who believed in joy, in kindness, in the power of treating people well. And if Tom Hiddleston couldn't see the value in that, well, that was his loss, not hers.